Hey everyone, this is Chris, obviously. I'm recording this lecture 8, on Thursday, September 25th at 8:45 my time, so 6:45 your time. I'm in my office right now, which I can give you a quick little tour. It's pretty. So I have a couch and a chair and my rug. I've got some art supplies and books that I use, my little clock there. That's actually a weighted hippo. It's got like 5 pounds of weight in it. So I've had a lot of clients, adults, children, everybody in between, um, utilize that, like hold it. And I've got my little grumpy otter here as well. I've got some art supplies. Um, I wanted it to feel kind of like a living room. Uh, and so people can just come in and feel comfortable. I also have a comfy chair myself. I sit in the chair, not the couch usually, so that when I'm doing therapy, I've got good back support because I have chronic pain, and so that I can sit comfortably. Because I think if I can show up as my authentic self and sit in a way that's comfortable for me, hopefully whoever enters my space can do the same, no matter who they are or what they need. So let's go ahead and get to the lecture today. And I'm going to go into slideshow. Cool. So we are on week 8. And this week we're going to be talking about teaching, learning, self-regulation. So today I want to do for our check-in some tapping, which this is like a good technique that you can implement like right away. You don't need any specialized training really. You just kind of need the map of um, where to tap. Um, so when our nervous systems become dysregulated, which we'll talk about in a little bit, um, the goal is kind of to regulate our systems, or at least to help calm it down. So tapping is something that one of my past therapists actually taught me how to do. And so you can do one finger or two, and you can use both hands or one, or, however you want to do it. Um, you can do both sides at the same time. That's usually what I recommend. So I'll walk you through it. But essentially, if you want to kind of find your grounding, so I'm sitting in my office chair and my knees are at about a 90-degree angle. My feet are flat on the floor, and my butt, like I'm sitting right on my sits bones, which are the two bones of your butt. So I have like points of contact with the ground and with gravity. And I'm kind of just finding that sweet spot of like where it feels comfortable, but also like, kind of lift it up, like if you imagine having a string at the top of your head, just kind of pulling you up, like what that would look like, but don't overdo it, don't overextend, just kind of like hang. And so with tapping, um, so like I'll start at the top of my head, so like the crown, and you just kind of tap and breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then you can move into the space between your eyebrows. So this is like where, if you think about like a third eye, that kind of thing, you can tap right there. Again, try with one finger, try with two fingers, see what feels good. Don't forget to breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. And then go ahead and do the sides of your eyes. And it doesn't have to be hard. It's literally just it's just tap, It's raining outside right now where I am in Massachusetts. And the rain, it's like tapping with the rain, like raindrops. And then you go under your eye. And you try it with one and two fingers, see what feels comfortable. Then we're gonna go under the nose, so like that bridge part. And then the space under your mouth, like right where your chin is, like that little kind of area right there. And then we're gonna go to the collarbone. So you know where you've got that little dip here? It's kind of like right below that. And if you feel like sighing, it's a good time to sigh, you know, like on the exhale. And after the collarbone, we have the underarm. So this is a little weird, but like kind of underneath here. So like you can do one at a time. Under the other side. And then so the side of the hand, like right here. Don't forget to breathe. Again, try like one or two fingers, find a spot that feels okay. And then the other hand. It's okay to yawn too. Yawning is actually a good thing. And then we go to your wrist. Try to find a sweet spot. I'm actually going to go right here. This feels good for me today. You can try one or two. Again, don't forget to breathe. Make sure you're not holding tension anywhere in your body if you can help it. Just try to keep that awareness up. And then your other wrist. I'm saying this stuff as much for y'all as for myself because I'm noticing tension in my body. It's also okay if feelings come up. Okay, now go ahead and find your seated position again. Maybe where that string is kind of coming up. If you need to go back and tap anything again, go ahead. Whoa. All right, so take a quick inventory of your mind, like just in your body. How did that feel? Did anything weird come up? My body feels a little more like tingly, just like I'm more in it and like, I don't know, I feel like I'm almost like this, you know, like ready to go. It's kind of like I had a cup of coffee or something, which is good because I'm going to keep yawning. Ooh. So I apologize if you're watching this and tired. All right, so I've got links here to a 10-minute video on tapping that might be a little bit different than what I showed you. And the image here on the right, there's a link right here in the article that kind of talks about it and the different, methodologies and approaches to it, why it's good and can be good to use with clients. Again, since we're kind of demonstrating and modeling these skills, if we're feeling dysregulated, we can walk a client through an exercise and help ourselves get regulated too. Um, I know some folks have been asking me kind of like how do you like do this work without getting too overwhelmed or like, that kind of thing. Um, I think part of my practice, and if this works for you, great. If not, that's totally fine too. You'll find something that works for you. But I've been finding ways to incorporate the work that I need to do for myself uh, into like my day-to-day work. If I'm able to show like emotional intelligence and emotional awareness to my clients and then demonstrate how to kind of get more regulated, um, then they might be more willing or able to try it. Again, it's not necessarily about me in the room. It's more like I tend to feed off of other people's energy. And so if somebody's making me uncomfortable or like there's a situation that's weird, like I'm trying to practice like naming it and seeing what we can do together, whoever's in the room with me, to help kind of calm that down. Um, yeah, and I mean, like, I'm trying to incorporate like a routine and a ritual for my mornings and my evenings so that the start and end of my workday have something built in to help mark the start and the end, right? Um, so I can kind of get more into what that looks like for me, but I wanted to mention that to folks like if you're working in an organization, it might be hard. But there are ways to kind of like build out your day, build in breaks, um, build in time with coworkers, build in time for yourself to check in. And honestly, a lot of it has been like I've just been so exhausted for so long, um, that I just had to figure out how to do it. I still have like anxiety from time to time, but I really try to like embrace it as opposed to try to like push it away or reject it. Um, I feel like these types of emotions that we have, and that our clients have are there for a reason. They're either like a learned behavior from past coping mechanisms or um, our bodies and our nervous systems might be trying to tell us something that our brain isn't ready or willing or capable of, acknowledging yet. So, the body can be really telling, as far as, markers of symptoms and whether or not interventions are working. So, anywho, moving on. Some general reminders for you. Uh, your individual meeting is due by Monday, October 20th. You can sign up for a time with me via Calendly. Please email me if the times on Calendly don't work. I can be flexible and I can fit you in. Again, it can be like 5 minutes, it can be 15, it can be an hour, whatever you need or want. We can just talk shop. We can talk about social work. You can ask me questions about, my work history, how I came to social work, or if you want to talk about what you want to do with your degree, or potential career paths for you, or questions about how to do this work. Um, Really whatever. We could talk about the weather. We could talk about how classes are going. Um, yeah. As my schedule changes, I'll keep Calendly updated and I'll try to open up some more times as well, just so everybody's got a chance to kind of meet with me one-on-one. I just want to get to know you, like kind of selfishly. I'll admit that. Because I know being fully asynchronous online can be kind of alienating and we can forget that we're all people and humans. And so I just want you to have a face to the name apart from just on video, a little more personalized so that I can have that too. Uh, Weekly assignments and activities. I know for week 9, we do have an ethics corner that's dropped in. But if you have any topic ideas, please send them my way and I'm going to try to incorporate them in the modules to come. You have your assigned partners and peer groups. The dates are up for the 3 optional synchronous Zoom meetings. And by the time I'm recording this, I believe there are 2 left. So definitely check those out. Come if you're able. Send me questions ahead of time. If you've reviewed the 1 video thus far and have additional questions, please let me know. I can try to answer those questions at the next session, which I think it's October 6th, and then we've got another one in November, I think November 10th. Okay. And I've switched up the times on those too, just to make it so that more people can show, just depending on the time. Okay. So week 8, teaching, learning, and self-regulation. So I'm going to talk about fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and collapse, the window of tolerance, executive functioning, and I'm going to give you some resources for self-regulation because um, different things work for different folks, and also I don't want this lecture to go too long. um, so yeah, so fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and collapse. I wanted to throw this extra piece in the mix. I know that the resources that Dr. Perry put in the module for this time around are like fight, flight, freeze, and collapse. So fight is, you know, this is like the anger, the rage, confrontation. It's high energy. It's like, leaning in. It's like, like I will defend myself. I will defend what I care about, So very much like the image of the bull, being taunted almost. Flight is running away from the threat. So anxiety, panic, avoidance, high energy. This is also high energy. So it's like, like the rabbit, like drop everything and run. Folks who have high anxiety tend to avoid situations, environments that increase their anxiety levels. So you'll see this with a lot of social anxiety disorder. Folks will avoid leaving the house. They'll avoid going to the grocery store. They'll avoid meeting new people. Freeze is you basically shut down to block out the threat. So this is kind of low energy. It's dissociation, numbness, shutdown, again, low energy. It's kind of like coming into oneself, So like a fawn, like a deer, having that alert that you just kind of freeze up, when they have their tail up. Fawn is another kind of dimension to this. This is another response to trauma, people pleasing, appeasing the threat. So compromising to the point of like codependency or having like a lack of boundaries. Folks who are raised female are taught like by society to kind of lean into this one more than anything, I think. And I'm speaking from my personal experience and from my work thus far. Conditioning into these different things can happen, these different responses can happen. And so, they can be like adaptive coping mechanisms and responses to trauma, but if they continue on past that point, that's when we're seeing the coping mechanism being used that's no longer appropriate for the response, right? So we'll see panic attacks when when we can't get a hold of somebody, when they're totally fine, they just turned off their phone because they're in a movie or something, let's see here. Oh yeah. So the difference between freeze and like collapse or shutdown. So freeze is still hyper aroused. So I guess freeze, sorry, I should have said that better. It's not this, it's kind of just like holding yourself in a state of readiness so that you can flee. The muscles are tense and full of energy, but can't release it. There are similar levels of sympathetic and parasympathetic activation. So you've got increased heart rate and blood pressure. And like you might hear things from your client like, I feel stuck, I can't move, or, my body feels heavy, I feel like I'm in cement. Eyes tend to widen, and the body is ready to return to fight or flight as soon as the threat passes. And so the difference between freeze and shutdown or collapse is that the client is hypo-aroused in shutdown or collapse. So this is that thing I was saying before. So muscles are flaccid and loose. The parasympathetic nervous system is dominant. So you've got decreased heart rate, blood pressure, and temperature. The client may not speak at all, blank stare. Um, Sensory information stops at the thalamus. So in the brain, it doesn't reach the cortex, so it's not integrated. So the client is essentially taking in less information. They're less aware of their internal and external world. Um, endorphins release to numb pain. Um, Dynorphins release, which can make the client feel detached from their body. So this is where we see that like dissociation feeling. It can result in fainting, and I believe this is also kind of the point where you can have someone kind of go catatonic if it builds to that point. Uh, there we go. I also just wanted to say, like, there are so many different ways of articulating the trauma response. So another iteration is fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or flop. So just, so that you have um some other options, like if you're working with kiddos, this might be a better option than, freeze or collapse. And I also feel like collapse um feels kind of like it's got a negative connotation. I mean, flop isn't necessarily better, but just to give you some ideas that there are different languages you can use or different words to describe these different reactions to stress and trauma. So one of the handouts this week is the window of tolerance. And so um, the window of tolerance is like when you feel like you are able to meet the day-to-day stressors, whatever kind of comes your way, you're able to be flexible enough to change and to meet the needs that you have that come up. You're calm but not tired, alert but not anxious. Um, And so when you are stressed, um, or, experiencing trauma or have something that triggers an experience of trauma, your window of tolerance narrows. And so you have less of a capacity and capability of regulating your nervous system. So the link to the article with this window of tolerance is right here if you want to read more about that. But essentially, our range of nervous system functioning um, is the is kind of the window of tolerance, right? So if it's functioning within, I don't want to say normal, but like within like what feels good for the client, then you're in that window of tolerance. You're regulated, right? Beyond our window of tolerance, we're dysregulated. So like we can go into hyper arousal. So that's that anxiety, that flight. And we can go into hypo arousal, which is, withdrawal. It's the freeze, fawn, um, and collapse. Um, so the narrow window of tolerance, like when you're seeing folks kind of um, just kind of all over the place with like a physical reaction, like if a loud noise happens and their window of tolerance is probably pretty minimal. And so the idea is to kind of build that window of tolerance up so that there's greater capacity and space for regulation, nervous system regulation, and then we are not going into dysregulation so much. Um, so a narrow window of tolerance is fluctuating regulation. You can go up all the way into hyper and you can go all the way down into hypo, depending on how, narrow your window of tolerance is and kind of what your map is with that. Um, the narrow window of tolerance can be a result of trauma, a cumulative or complex trauma or stress. So I would say it's pretty normal for us to experience times in our lives when our window of tolerance shrinks. Uh, if we have a major loss or an accident or, there's a trauma that happens, it's normal to have a reaction to that, and to have your window of tolerance decrease. However, if that remains the case, like far beyond the instance of the stressor or the trauma, that's when it becomes something that we want to work on in therapy in particular, right? Because if somebody just had a major loss, we don't want them to be regulated necessarily. We want to deal with the grief, right? We want to address that and let that work itself out through the body and not have it get trapped. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if not. So observable behaviors to having a narrower window of tolerance, these would be, things that we would see that are outside of the norm for the person. So if we talk to a family member or friend, somebody who's close to the individual, they would say, their impulsivity has increased, that they're having drug or alcohol use. Sometimes this is called like self-medicating, entering into relationships quickly, talking more than usual and interrupting, or taking on too many projects. So this is that kind of like, you know, I'll deal with it, I'll deal with it, I'll deal with it. Avoidance or withdrawal. So this could be like missing appointments or other commitments, decreased participation in, so TX is treatment, or just their life in general. Decreased engagement across the board, and missing important events, like family events, things they would normally go to and participate in, they end up missing those. And if we're in hyperarousal, the inability to sit still, fidgeting, talking more than usual, interrupting, you can see this kind of overlaps with impulsivity, perfectionism, decreased sleep, or like decreased quality of sleep, aggressive or loud behavior, jumping or startling easy. So this is that, like, you hear a loud noise. And then, having a wide range of emotions expressed in a short period of time. So kind of feeling everything a bit too much. I've had folks say that it feels like they don't have any skin, like anything that touches them feels too much, right? Um, I also wanted to talk about executive functioning. So we talk about this a lot in society. It's become kind of, I don't want to say like a meme, but it's become like commonplace language. And so as far as us as clinicians, as social workers, executive functioning, we're talking about working memory, um, inhibition control, and cognitive flexibility. So planning, reasoning, solving problems, and multitasking. This is from Cleveland Clinic's executive function page. So please feel free to check that out for more information. Um, so I also have this graphic here. Sorry, I keep moving myself back and forth. Executive functioning skills are comprised of a set of cognitive processing skills which are necessary to learn, work, live, and function on a daily basis. So these are just some examples here. Impulse control, emotional control, flexible thinking, working memory, self-monitoring, so self-awareness, planning and prioritizing, your ability to set goals and meet them, task initiation. I know folks that we see who are in depression have a lot of difficulty, taking action to start a task. But we also see this with anxiety, and we also see this with folks who have like procrastination, organization, so keeping track of things physically and mentally, and then impulse control, so thinking before we act. So I wrote here ADLs and IADLs. So coming from like the older adults sphere, a lot of emphasis is placed on ADLs, so your activities of daily living. This is like your ability to manage your medications on time, to do grocery shopping and make your meals. This is also like self-care, like basic personal hygiene stuff, that kind of thing. Like, can you get dressed? Can you do laundry? Those things. And then I think executive functioning, primarily in the way we're talking about it, is the IADLs. So the independent activities of daily living. So this is more like, does somebody have the mental capacity to, kind of hold all of these pieces that are in this graph here and be able to manage all of them and be flexible without it like completely throwing things off, if that makes sense, or throwing us into emotional nervous system dysregulation. So the image and quote here are from ADD Vantages. So I think it's like Advantages Learning Center. If you want to take a look more about executive functioning and kind of the more intimate details or intricate details, about executive functioning because, again, it's become like popular lexicon, like, language. But sometimes how people speak about it, like on TikTok and in social media, isn't what we're talking about. How executive functioning can be impacted by trauma is a negative effect on memory. So we're talking like explicit memory. So semantic, which is words, images, sounds, or episodic. So the who, what, when, where, and implicit memory. So emotional memory, if something occurs like a smell that happened or that reminds an individual of, a smell that happened during a traumatic event or something around it, that can trigger an experience or a dysregulated experience. And procedural. So, the unconscious patterns that we have in our brains. So like if you get on a bike and you ride the bike, that's procedural, right? But if you get on the bike and this is like after, having a bike crash or something, and you're holding your body in a different way, you may not be aware of it, but that procedural memory, that implicit memory of procedural has not or has changed as a result of the accident there. This is how, like, for example, with folks who have like a traumatic event where they can't remember certain pieces of it, or it's not in order, or they can't remember who was involved. Like this is what we're talking about here. The executive functioning kind of goes out the window, or can, when trauma happens. Um, it also can negatively impact attention and processing. So something I would say too, like I've seen with a lot of folks with anxiety, is that they have difficulty actually hearing and having it stick in their brains, like any verbal information or communication. So, some of the students I work with, we will make sure they have written notes and written instructions for assignments, so that it's not just that they're supposed to be hearing these directions. They can, actually consult something written down, because it's easier to process that way, or they have more capacity to process that way. Concentration, paying attention, or focusing on a task. Um, Being able to link therapy content. So like the things that we talk about in the room, they're not able to actually, implement them, or kind of, link it to the overall goal of therapy, how they're trying to, um, I don't want to say get better, but whatever they're trying to work on to improve as far as symptoms go. They're trying to like they're not able to link it all together, is what I'm trying to say. Remembering important dates or appointments. So even if you're really good at tracking this kind of thing, it can just all become mush in your brain. Um, Remembering previous work or skills. So you could sit down to do something that you've done a million times before, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? I don't remember how to do this. And that can be really scary. And this is also like new skills we learned as well. So something you learned last week might just completely be gone um, as a result of trauma. So I want to encourage y'all to take a look at these self-regulation resources. This article is actually super amazing from Positive Psychology. It actually has a whole bunch of different options for self-soothing and self-regulation. Again, if we're able to model these, uh, I think it's easier for folks to get buy-in, our clients in front of us, especially like kiddos. Um, this is the second resource here is a list of classroom practices that can help build self-regulation skills in younger children. So again, this is like good not just for the classroom, but for the therapy room, right? And then for those of you who are more interested in kind of the sciencey bit, who like reading those kind of like lengthy articles, this is about this last article here is the neuroscience of self and self-regulation. So just the technical aspect of it, that side of things, and how it can help. Cool. So thank you for being with me here. I hope that wasn't too much information and kind of was a review after looking at the handouts and after the reading. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or text me. You know how to get a hold of me. Yeah. Next week, we're going to be talking about the DSM, and that one's going to be pretty intense. So I wanted this one to be a little bit lighter. Hopefully that's the case for you. Okay. And hopefully this information is helpful too. I know a lot of people benefit from understanding how the nervous system works and how it can present in our symptoms. So this would be considered like psychoeducation. If you print these handouts out and are showing folks these. I can also see if I can find some other handouts if y'all want some diversity in options as well. So let me know. All right. Thanks so much.